In 499 BC, the Ionian city-states, which were under Persian rule, rose up against their tyrannical Persian-backed rulers. With support from Athens and Eretria, they marched as far as Sardis, setting the city ablaze before being pushed back by a Persian counteroffensive. This uprising persisted until 494 BC when the Ionian rebels were ultimately defeated. Darius, the Persian ruler, did not forget Athens' involvement in supporting the Ionian revolt, and in 490 BC, he mustered a formidable naval force for retaliation. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Athenians, aided by their allies from Plataea, achieved a remarkable victory against the Persian forces at the Battle of Marathon, causing the Persian fleet to retreat. A decade later, Darius' son Xerxes launched a second invasion. The city-states in northern and central Greece surrendered to the Persian forces without resistance. However, a coalition of 31 Greek city-states, including Athens and Sparta, resolved to resist the Persian invaders. Simultaneously, Greek Sicily faced an invasion by Carthaginian forces. In 480 BC, a pivotal battle unfolded at Thermopylae, where a small group of Greeks, led by 300 Spartans, held a vital pass that guarded the heart of Greece for several days. At the same time, Gelon, the tyrant of Syracuse, defeated the Carthaginian invaders at the Battle of Himera. The Persians suffered a decisive defeat at sea in the Battle of Salamis, primarily at the hands of the Athenian naval force, and on land in 479 BC at the Battle of Plataea. The alliance against Persia continued, initially under the leadership of Spartan Pausanias, but by 477 BC, Athens had taken the helm. By 460 BC, Persia had been expelled from the Aegean. During this extended campaign, the Delian League gradually transformed from a defensive alliance of Greek states into an Athenian empire as Athens' growing naval power intimidated the other league members. Athens concluded its campaigns against Persia in 450 BC, following a disastrous defeat in Egypt in 454 BC and the death of Cimon in action against the Persians on Cyprus in 450 BC. As Athens' struggle against the Persian Empire waned, tensions escalated between Athens and Sparta. Suspicion of Athenian dominance, funded by the Delian League, prompted Sparta to offer aid to reluctant league members to rebel against Athenian control. These tensions escalated in 462 BC when Athens dispatched a force to assist Sparta in quelling a Helot revolt, but the Spartans declined this assistance. In the 450s BC, Athens gained control of Boeotia and achieved victories over Aegina and Corinth. However, Athens failed to secure a decisive triumph, and in 447 BC, they lost control of Boeotia once again. Athens and Sparta eventually negotiated the 30 Years' Peace in the winter of 446/5 BC, bringing an end to the hostilities. Despite the treaty, Athenian-Spartan relations deteriorated again in the 430s BC, leading to the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War in 431 BC. In the initial phase of the conflict, Sparta launched a series of unsuccessful annual invasions of Attica, while Athens successfully battled the Corinthian Empire in northwest Greece and defended its own empire. A devastating plague claimed the life of the prominent Athenian statesman Pericles during this time. The war's dynamics shifted with Athenian victories led by Cleon at Pylos and Sphacteria, prompting Sparta to propose peace. However, the Athenians rejected the offer. After the deaths of Cleon and Brasidas, the most fervent advocates for war on both sides, a peace treaty was eventually negotiated in 421 BC, with Athenian general Nicias playing a significant role in the negotiations. The era of peace was short-lived, as turbulent events soon unfolded in the ancient Greek world. In 418 BC, Athens and Argos, despite their alliance, suffered a defeat at the hands of Sparta in Mantinea. Just 7 years later, in 415 BC, Athens embarked on a grand naval expedition aimed at asserting its dominance in Sicily. Unfortunately, this expedition ended in disaster as the Athenian army was almost entirely wiped out, and their ships lay in ruins in the harbor of Syracuse. Following the calamitous defeat in Syracuse, Athens faced further challenges. Its Ionian allies rebelled against the Delian League, and Persia once again became involved in Greek affairs, aligning itself with Sparta. Initially, Athens managed to maintain a relatively strong position, achieving significant victories at Cyzicus in 410 and Argianosi in 406. However, the turning point came in 405 when the Spartan general Lysander defeated Athens in the Battle of Aegospotami and initiated a blockade of Athens harbor. Faced with starvation, Athens reluctantly sought peace, agreeing to surrender their fleet and become part of the Spartan-led Peloponnesian League. Subsequently, Sparta installed an oligarchic regime known as the 30 Tyrants in Athens, one of several such Spartan-backed regimes that emerged in the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War. Spartan dominance, however, was short-lived. Within a year, the 30 Tyrants were overthrown. This marked the beginning of a turbulent period in Greek history. The first half of the 4th century BC witnessed the major Greek states vying for dominance on the mainland. However, none of them achieved lasting success, leading to a power vacuum that would eventually be filled by Macedon, first under the leadership of Philip II and later by his son, Alexander the Great. Immediately after the Peloponnesian War, Sparta sought to extend its influence, prompting Argos, Athens, Corinth, and Thebes to unite against it. The Persian king initially joined this alliance against Sparta, with the goal of preventing any Greek state from attaining the power that could challenge Persia. Eventually, Persia imposed the Peace of Antalcidas, also known as the King's Peace, which restored its control over the Anatolian Greeks. By 371 BC, Thebes emerged as a dominant power, defeating Sparta at the Battle of Leuctra and invading Laconia. Thebes continued its success against Sparta in 369, leading to the independence of Messenia. This loss of fertile land and a Helot workforce dealt a significant blow to Sparta, from which it never fully recovered. The rise of Thebes prompted Sparta and Athens to form an alliance, but they were defeated by Thebes at the Battle of Mantinea in 362. In the aftermath, none of the major Greek states could establish dominance. While Thebes had won the battle, the death of their general Epaminondas and ongoing conflicts with neighboring states kept them occupied. Meanwhile, Athens saw the collapse of its second naval alliance, formed in 377, during the mid-350s. With Greece in a state of flux after the Battle of Mantinea, Macedon, under the leadership of Philip II, stepped in to fill the power vacuum. In 338 BC, Philip II defeated a Greek alliance at the Battle of Kyrenia and subsequently established the League of Corinth. Philip had grand plans to lead this league in an invasion of Persia, but his life was tragically cut short by assassination in 336 BC. His son, Alexander the Great, inherited his father's ambitions and embarked on a remarkable journey. Alexander initiated campaigns against Macedon's western and northern adversaries, as well as the Greek states that had broken away from the League of Corinth after Philip's death. In 334 BC, he launched his famous campaign against Persia, ultimately conquering the empire and proclaiming himself the king of Asia after defeating Darius III at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. From 329 BC onward, Alexander led expeditions into Bactria and India. Although he had plans to invade Arabia and North Africa, his untimely death in 323 BC halted those ambitions.